Greetings, friends. Welcome to the Let's Get Gritty podcast with yours truly, Dr. India White. I am so thrilled to be here with you this evening. I hope that you are rocking it out. I hope you've had grit this week. I hope you've been able to meet your workout goals, whatever those are. I hope your family's been gritty. I hope that your grit has opened doors for you. And I hope that you've been able to use your grit to help others. Now, with that said, I want to make some announcements before we get started in our show today. First things first, the Let's Get Gritty podcast will be featured on Swain Girl Media and on Spotify. So when you get a chance, check us out to see more of these opportunities on Swain Girl Media channel and on Spotify. Look for us. Listen to us. You can also find it on all social media outlets listed behind me. And also, you can find it on my YouTube channel, which is India White 123. So, with that said, I hope that you're able to go there and check it out. Also, I wanted to see if you could also check out my website at www.india-white.com for book announcements, blogs, and to schedule me for your next speaking event. I'll also now have my newsletter for you guys where I'll be talking about just different topics, usually grit or equitable practices, closing the achievement gap, and beyond. I'm here to service you. So if you have a topic that you would like for me to discuss in one of my newsletters, feel free to send me an email at india.white.123@gmail.com. You can also send me an email if you're wanting to be featured on the Let's Get Gritty podcast with Dr. India White. This show does air on Thursdays, but we can also work out pre-recorded arrangements and whatnot. So you can send me an email again, as it's listed below. Also, I wanted to remind you guys to please follow me on social media. Let's get connected. My Facebook is Miss India White. LinkedIn is The India White. Twitter is Indie Speak and Teach. Instagram is Indie238. YouTube channel is India White 123, and TikTok is Dr. India White. And so with that said, I'm super hopeful that we'll be able to be connected and to do some work together. I'm so thankful for those school district leaders, conference leaders that have given me an opportunity to come and connect with you, to work in your school districts, to work on your campuses, to work at various conferences, to speak. I'm here. So put me on your calendar. And I'm also available for webinars and, other professional development opportunities as well. I also wanted to make an announcement, new launch. The Grit Mini Workshop with Grassroots Workshops platform with Robert Kaplinski, the one and only Robert Kaplinski and his tribe. So thankful to have my new Grit Mini Workshop where we're going to be talking about how to harness grit to help students thrive. So all of you that are like, I want to see how this works in the math space or in the classroom, here you have it. So go ahead and check that out when you have a chance. I'd love to have follow-up from you guys to let us know how you like it and any other questions that you have for us regarding how to be gritty and how to help your students to cultivate grit in the math classroom. Now, I also wanted to remind you guys of some upcoming events. If you're in Minnesota, I'm making plans to come see you. So I'm expecting hugs. I'm expecting great conversations and great connections, great opportunities. And I'll be doing some featured sessions at the NCTM conference in Minnesota in April. I'll also be swinging by Wisconsin as a keynote speaker at the Wisconsin Math Council, y'all. So if you are going to be in the house, I'm expecting much love in Wisconsin. So I want to see you guys. Please reach out to me, connect. Let's make plans. Let's do this. Let's stay gritty together. Now, with that said, we have been talking about just different ways to cultivate grit, harness grit. I am doing all that I can to put out everything I can to help you as a principal, as an educator, as a leader, as a parent, whatever, whoever you are, to cultivate grit in yourself and in your students. Now, true story, I had a situation where, you know how like you're working out and you're like on a specific regimen, you're doing really good, but then life happens and you just don't know how to start working out again. I don't know if any of you guys are there. I've been there. And it takes grit to get that going again. It takes that resilience. And I remembered um, just literally being like, just do it. Just cultivate, just harness it by just getting that that initial build up within, where you're like, I'm going to overcome my obstacles. I'm going to overcome my fears. I'm going to overcome my hurdles, my slothfulness that I might have. Yes, we have to own that sometimes. I'm going to overcome wanting an extra hour of sleep, and I'm just going to do this thing. And so, long story short, I'm thankful. I've had times, many times in my life, where I've gone from working out for an hour, a day, or an hour and a half a day, to then 45 minutes to 15 minutes to nothing. And then I have to pick it back up again. And sometimes it takes small steps. Sometimes you have to give yourself realistic goals. Like, if you've not worked out for a couple of days or a week or so, sometimes it's hard to just jump back in and do an hour and a half or an hour. So sometimes you have to take baby steps, maybe 15 minutes, aim for 15 minutes, or aim for 10 minutes. And if not that, aim for 5 minutes. Or if, like when I first started, write down what you want to do and then eventually build up to that. Or if you're like, okay, I want to work out, but I'm not sure, I don't want to do all that running and stuff. Well, then slow down the pace on the treadmill. Slow down, what you're doing, instead of jogging for 5 miles, maybe jog a mile, maybe jog half a mile, maybe jog a block, maybe, like, give yourself something, but you have to start somewhere. And that is the power of grit, is being able to just start somewhere. And we have to take that same mindset and help our students in the world of academia to do the same, because there's so much data and so many documents and people that have shown us and proven that grit is it. It is the factor. And when it is tied together with other factors of self-efficacy, building confidence of students, having a community support, having, family support, even financial support, all of these things, mentors, all of those factors combined with grit, it just sets kids off to be just invincible. And it's super exciting to see. So I want to talk about some research and some things that I was able to dig up for you guys around grit and why it's so amazing. And so with that said, why am I talking about this? Because the topic of our show today is, when you've tried everything else, try grit. Again, when you've tried everything else, try grit. Because grit is it. And, we can try to focus on other issues. We can try to focus on social issues. We might even be tempted to focus on economic issues. We can be tempted to focus on various limitations, hindrances, grief, different obstacles that come in the way of our students' lives. But at the end of the day, if you have the ability to teach your children and your students how to harness grit and how to be gritty, they can bounce back no matter what. Some, it might take longer, but that does not mean that they have to be a victim of their circumstance. They can still bounce back. It makes me think of students that are not even in the United States, students that are dealing with chronic poverty, like over in, maybe Africa and impoverished countries, parts of the impoverished countries, where you'll see these students. I don't know if you've seen this, like on YouTube or just wherever. These students have dirt and little metal miscellaneous objects, and you would think nothing's going to come out of that. And then these children are building cars and building toys like that work, that are electric. And, it's because they're gritty. They just have it. They have it. They have the mindset to want to work, the mindset to want to bounce back, and the resilience to bounce back despite their hardships and their obstacles. And that's what all of our students need today, is they need to understand how to be gritty no matter what. So whenever you tried everything else in the classroom setting, you're like, listen, I've tried separating the kids. I've tried connecting with the kids. I've tried giving them extra time. Nothing is working. Then try grit. And remember, grit, my terminology of grit, my acronym is great resilience in time. When you're able to build resilience over a specific amount of time, that is what's going to help students be gritty. But you also have to have a goal with it. Now, Dr. Duckworth, the queen of grit, She already told us what it's all about. She told us the grit is the passion and the perseverance to obtain long-term goals. I have to coin that rock star for this term. It is what it is. You have to develop the passion. If the kid's head is down, where's their passion? Now listen, they might be passionate, but they might be going through some things too. And that's why it's imperative that you get to know your student and get down to the root as to why those students have their heads down, why they're not connecting with you, why there are walls up, what's going on. Because, I mean, you could do all you want when it comes down to, developing a classroom environment that's, amazing. For instance, putting a plug out there for Peter Lidahall, who's doing amazing work with building thinking classrooms and all those rock star teachers. That's excellent. Excellent. But what if their head is down? You can't build anything if you don't connect with that kid and if you don't get their passion to where it needs to be. You have to develop grit. So the thing is, we can't run from this. We have to face it. We have to face it dead on and figure out what can we do. And I want to now talk about some findings that I have discovered online that speak to why grit is so important and how it has affected student achievement. So now I'm sharing my fabulous screen. So here, Mindshift, they wrote this in 2012. Okay, there's so many researchers and experts that are all saying the same thing. So look, how important, is grit in student achievement? So when it comes to high achievement, grit may be as essential as intelligence. Here we go. Grit may be as essential as intelligence. So for those that are like, oh, you don't need grit, you don't need to be gritty. Well, then what are you going to do? How are you going to get them to be resilient? How are you going to get them to focus on their goals and to produce for you? See, we're all about results. One thing about my way of practice, I focused on results. I want to see data. I don't care about, all of the cool, crafty, creative things. I think that's great. But if it's not producing results, it needs to take a back seat. Grit, it gives you results that you can trace and that you can rely on. So listen, let's keep reading. So this says, before she was a psychology professor, Dr. Angela Duckworth taught math in middle school and high school. She spent a lot of time thinking about what seemed to be obvious. The students who tried the hardest did the best, and the students who didn't try very hard didn't do very well. So she wanted to know, what was the role of effort in a person's success? So in general, of anybody's success, she just wanted to know that. So now she's an assistant professor at the University of Pennsylvania, and her research focuses on a personality trait. See, it's all about developing this trait that we all have. All of your students have grit. They just choose to be more gritty in certain situations that are more aligned with their passion. So for instance, if you tell your students, we're going to start a new chapter today, we're going to talk about fractions, we're going to talk about matrices, they might not be interested. But if you tell them, hey, we're going to have a concert at our school today, and Rihanna's going to be there, Taylor Swift's going to be there, and someone else. We even had Shaquille O'Neal, who's going to do a rapping session. Okay, be at the lunchroom, 12 o'clock. Watch and see what happens, right? They're going to probably be more gritty for the second event because they're passionate about those people and it resonates with them. So she's talking about this personality trait. Well, let's keep going. She defines grit as sticking with things over the long term until you master them. The purpose is, yes, mastery. But when you're talking about students, that is the end goal. But I mean, we also want proficiency, but we just want them to start sticking with things. Some students, we have to teach them how to stick with stuff because maybe they just don't know. Maybe they don't practice that necessarily in the home environment or in their neighborhood. Maybe that's not something that is imperative to, their family structure. Who knows? So we have to consider those things and be more empathetic as to how we can help build grit in our students and bring that personality trait out of them so that they can thrive with excellence. And so let's keep going. So Dr. Duckworth, they say here in a paper that she says that gritty individual approaches achievements as a marathon. His or her advantage is stamina. So it's that persistence. I've talked about that in my research as well at the University of Florida. It's all about that stamina, that persistence, not giving up, choosing to be resilient no matter what comes your way, because your eyes are on the prize, on the end goal. You've got to get it done. You cannot quit. Quitting is off the table. And that's what we have to build in our students. So look here. Duckworth's research suggests that when it comes to high achievement, grit may be as essential as intelligence. It's a significant finding, big words there, because for a long time, intelligence, right, was considered the key to success. People talked about that. If you had the IQ, that was it. You were gold. But now she's saying it's not IQ. She's saying it's grit. And so, look, she developed a grit scale where you can rate yourself on 8 to 12 items. And she talks about grittiness and building the grit. And then here, she even compared it. Excellent. I'm so happy that she did this. This is fabulous because it all resonates with everything I've been saying and everything I found in my findings. I just get so excited. Okay, so it says Dr. Duckworth is now turning her attention to the question of grit and college completion, which is what I did my studies on at University of Florida. Look, so she studied by the Gates Foundation. Thank you, Bill Gates, for paying for my college, because the Gates Foundation helped me as well. So it says here, she did a study funded by the Gates Foundation. Her and a number of other researchers are trying to understand what predicts college persistence. Oh my gosh, this is so awesome. This is so awesome. Okay. Among graduates of several high-performing urban charter school networks. So she has the Yes Prep Public Schools in Houston. She even looked in Philadelphia, and she looked in California and in Connecticut. So she's going across the U.S. They went across the U.S. in these charter school networks. They serve mostly low-income and minority families. And so she was seeing what was going to help close the achievement gap. And the ultimate goal of all of those charter school networks is to get kids to go to college and to earn degrees. And so this is so powerful because if you keep reading, it's talking about these charter schools have succeeded in providing strong academic preparation. And so now she's doing the digging and she's like, okay, so what is it? And so she's finding, does that mean that charter schools who aren't making it through college, or college students who aren't making it through college, do they lack grit? So I guess she's seeing that she wants to know if grit is anything to do with their success. And if not, then, what is it? So she's talking here about many factors that contribute to college success, including money, right? What college students go to do, I guess, to college, and then there's social psychological barriers. Yes, those things do affect. But then she talks about how she thinks grit is likely a significant factor when it comes down to completing college among the charter school students. Most of them are first generation. This is like, I feel like a kid in a candy shop, because this is confirming everything that my studies found as well at the University of Florida. And I studied Florida graduates and also one at Duke University. So look, so she spoke with these students, and she's saying here, when college is hard, grit helps, according to her research. And so she says here, as you keep going, on average, more gritty than people. Let me back up. So it says, in fact, people who succeed in associate's degrees are more grittier than people who get bachelor's degrees. And so listen to this. Oh, wow. It takes as much grit to get an associate's degree as it does to get a PhD. So with that said, she's talking about it. They're concluding. And so even though she's saying it's not clear as to what makes people grittier than others, she does believe that grit is something that people can learn. I do believe it's a trait that you can learn or develop. And so I just think this is powerful. You could keep reading this. And so with that said, I've just got super excited because, she also talks here, what experiences do we give kids to get them in the direction of more grit and not less? And I think that that is the goal for all educators, is like, what are we doing to, I guess, fuel their fire, their gritty fire, so that they're passionate and they want to persevere, that they have a goal, that they feel like they can contribute to society and be a rock star that they are. That's why I love seeing, and I'm sure you guys love seeing little kids that, like there's a LinkedIn shout out of this guy who he's in NASA and he's African American, and I believe he's like an astronaut or something. And so he posted a picture of himself. I should find it for you. He posted a picture, and then this kid posted a picture of himself wanting to be like this guy. And it was so cute because the kid was definitely inspired by the guy. And so let me see if I can. So this guy's name is Tyrone. And I want you to see this. So it says here, this lady's post, it says, this is the reason. So she's talking about why representation and authenticity matter. Okay. And she says Tyrone Jacobs on the left. Okay. So it's this guy here. He is a NASA, I believe, an astronaut. And it says his picture went viral after his NASA headshot was posted. So his name is Tyrone Jacobs. It says, outside of him being a young man who was crushing his career, what really sparked positive conversations was something as subtle as his hair. Okay, so they're talking about different things like that. That's fine. It says Jacob's photo inspired a wave of people to share their own stories. So she keeps going, and she says a mother showed Jacobs a photo of her child dressed as Victor Glover and says, love when my son can see representation of him, but this, he can really see, or he can literally see himself. So look here. So this is her son. So this is really cute because Tyrone did answer back and he says, I want to FaceTime your son. This is so amazing. I love this. That's cute. So she says, she's talking about that and how her little boy here, if you could see the little picture, how he is here and he's dressed up as a little astronaut. That's so cute. I just think that's really cute. And I think that when we are able to get our kids to be gritty at this level, we are doing something right. See, I think the future of this young man in the little astronaut suit is going to be very bright. And it's my hope that, maybe he can even be mentored by the Tyrone astronaut guy, so that this young man can make great choices in his life and go on to contribute to society as an astronaut, developing that grit, because that's what it's all about. It's all about representation. And not only that, that also ties into numeracy and how students see themselves, having a sense of identity, and knowing that they can achieve as well because they've seen others do it. So kudos to Tyrone and his grittiness, and to the young man who is aspiring to be an astronaut. I think it's so cute. And so with that said, let's keep talking about grit, and let's keep talking about what the research is saying to us. And I want to see if I can share another really neat article with you about how we can teach grit. Because the thing is, how do you teach grit? What do we do? So this lady's a blogger named Vicky. Last name starts with a Z. I'm not going to butcher it. She talks about how to encourage self-perception and emotional management in an academic setting with the video team from these people. So first things first, she's talking about teaching optimism. This is, y'all, it's all in the mind. It really is. And this is so powerful. She says here, the teacher in the grit video, she created a year-long grit curriculum based on Martin Seligman's book, The Optimistic Child. Pointing to the years of research, Seligman argues that the optimism is a skill that can be taught by changing how we view setbacks that we encounter in life. And he also notes that parents and teachers must model. This is why grit is important. This is why growth mindset is important. It's great to have growth mindset, but if you don't back it up with a plan of action, you're just a really positive person not doing anything. The power of grit is the fact that you're able to have a growth mindset and put wheels on it and make it move forward. Does that make sense? You're able to put wheels on that passion, put wheels on that growth mindset, put wheels on that resilience and move forward in life. That's what kids need more than anything. And so they're talking about teaching optimism. They talk about a tool called a grit pie. It's where students represent a student's obstacle, and then each slice represents a realistic cause of the problem. Okay, that's awesome. Now, they're now talking about working also on emotions. This is another part. It talks about how, just changing a student's thoughts sometimes is not enough, especially if they tend to get anxious, appear depressed, or come from a traumatic environment. Because, there are a lot of rock stars out there talking about math anxiety and math trauma, because how can you get started on a math task if you're full of trauma? Right? You've got to help to develop the grit and stuff, but you got to put all that to the side and deal with the root of the problem, the root of the anxiety. And that means you have to get to know your student enough, slow down, find out what's going on, find out what happened, and then assist that student through those hard times. So you got to work through their emotions. They talk about taking deep breathing and mindfulness practice and how those are also effective. Let your students breathe. Let them do deep breathing. Let them have a moment. How can I say this? Teachers, listen. We have to get better at making sure that we're not freaking out on our students because they want to take a break. They want a bathroom break. They want a water break. Think about, how you are at certain conferences or how you are as a learner. When you were learning at the university level or whatever you did, there were times when your professor was teaching you, you wanted to get up and get a drink. You wanted to get up and go to the bathroom. You wanted to get up and check your phone real quick and talk to someone. Well, guess what? Our students are just as human as us, and they need those moments to take a break. They need moments for deep breathing. If you're teaching, especially when you're teaching math, if their eyes start glazing over and they start losing it or their head is down, that is a clear sign that, yes, although you might be a rock star, honey, you got to slow down and let your students take a break. Let them do some deep breathing, some mindfulness practices. Let them have moments of reflection, moments of introspection, so that they can retain this information, so that it doesn't become so overwhelming and oppressive, which is not the goal of being gritty. Okay. We got to make sure we help our students and see, look here, it says once they've calmed down, you can help them to cognitively reappraise the situation in order to change their thoughts and beliefs that have caused any negative emotions. So all of this is kind of tied together for our learners. Then, of course, love this. Building resilience. It's like this person and I went to have coffee together. I love it. So it says, helping students to cultivate positive emotions will also increase their ability to bounce back. That's what it's all about. Bouncing back from obstacles and the negative emotions that they often ensue. And it talks about here, researchers have found that highly resilient children use humor as a way to deal with stressful situations. Very interesting. And then it talks about sharing positive events with each other can also give students a boost in positive emotions. And if students dwell or savor a positive event, they're more likely to recall that event and the positive emotion. And so that's very interesting. And so it can broaden their thinking and make them better problem solvers. So there's other resources here in this link. It's amazing, where she's talking about teaching grit cultivates resilience and perseverance. I love this. Like, I'm so excited. And so it talks also about a grit curriculum lesson. There's so much stuff here on this about teaching grit. This is Edutopia. This is spot on. Well done. I love this. And so, at the end of the day, it's all about the babies. How can we help them? How can we assist them? How can we lift them, and get that passion going where they want to try? That is the problem. They don't want to try some of these times, or they want to try, but they feel paralyzed by fear fear of failure, fear of sounding off, sounding weird, fear of being bullied because they're not academically where their peers are. I mean, that is a real fear that students have, and we cannot dismiss that. We have to be wise in our tactics as to how we can help our students, and let our students know that we're in their corner and we're cheering them on no matter what. So, with that said, guys, listen, it's been a fabulous show. I hope that you've enjoyed this. Thank you so much again for tuning in to the Let's Get Gritty podcast with Dr. India White. And again, I would love for you guys to keep in touch with me. If you're wanting to be featured on the show, please send me an email with your photo in a bio. Thank you to those that have been reaching out to india.white.123@gmail.com. Also, just wanted to remind you again to follow me on social media. Facebook is Miss India White. LinkedIn is The India White. Twitter is Indie Speak and Teach. Instagram is Indie238. YouTube is India White123. And TikTok is Dr. India White. I also wanted to remind you guys this show will be featured on Swing Girl Media, and it will also be featured on Spotify. So listen for the previous episodes and the ones to come. Also, I'm looking forward to Minnesota Council of Teachers of Mathematics. I will see you there. I'm looking forward, and that's in April, where I'll be a featured speaker. And in Wisconsin, I will be keynoting it there in May at the Wisconsin Math Conference. And of course, I wanted to also remind you one more time about the Grit Mini Workshop. Check us out over there. Thank you, Robert Kaplinski and the team, for that. Check it out. It's called How to Harness Grit to Help Students Thrive. So this is my gift to you guys as educators and leaders to answer those sticky questions that you have about grit and what is it all about and how does it really work. So this workshop will be an answer to prayer for you. That is my hope. So with that said, thank you so much again for joining me on the Let's Get Gritty podcast. And so until next time, stay gritty.